there's a story that you've got to just begin to unpack. This is going to take a little bit uh, on both sides of this break here, but tell us what the hub is and just a little bit about that.
So, as a part of being in COVID, right? So, like everybody else, we kind of came to a trickle for a little bit. And then we slowly begin to open that faucet back up to where now we're working pretty much everybody safely spread out, just like we were pre-COVID, supplying jobs, supplies, and housing. We've had families move into housing in the midst of COVID. We have a system where we are able to move people in safely and help resource them safely during COVID. The hub then began construction in the middle of COVID. The hub is our community center where we say the church and community meet. The ideal is for it to be a place where residents no longer have to go all over St. Louis to find certain things that they need, but rather they can find it right in their own neighborhood. They'll be able to walk to it. And so the beauty of it is that there's a police substation going in there, and the person leading the police substation, Captain Allen, actually grew up across the street from the hub. She raised her daughter in the neighborhood. And so her precinct technically ends a block over. She went to her boss and said, listen, I'm vested in this community. Can I do this? So they moved her precinct over 3 blocks to be able to not only serve her original area, but to serve the hub. In addition to that, we are having a tech center built out in it so that starting in middle school, the idea is for youth to be able to learn coding. So by the time they graduate high school, if they don't feel called to go into college, they'll have a skill that allow them to have a high-paying job. And the part that I personally love the most is the healthcare component piece. Our zip code's second highest infant mortality rate, coupled with the fact of just having healthcare options. Most people would end up in the ER at Bourne's or travel outside of the neighborhood. Thanks to our partnership and building relationship with Mercy, now we'll be able to offer a clinic that people can walk to. And so now bronchitis doesn't have to become pneumonia. Now that mom can get all the prenatal care she needs in her own neighborhood, and if necessary, walk to her appointments and not have to worry about transportation.
We've been thinking, dreaming, praying about this for a long time. And I remember telling you when it really started to just come into reality that this was going to change things in that neighborhood for generations. But I don't want us to go any further without you introducing a guest that you have here from Mercy, because I know we want to hear from her.
Absolutely. So Miss Tanya from Mercy can articulate much better than I can Mercy's involvement and her personal passion, because interesting enough, she from day one was on board and behind the scenes going, we need to do this. And she was relentless. So Tanya, if you don't mind tonight sharing with everybody watching about Mercy and Mercy's why.
Sure. I'm really pleased to say that the first time I met Andre actually was through an introduction from one of our physicians, which I think says a lot about Mercy and how we view the people that work there, view Mercy as a ministry. And so a lot of us feel our own calling when we work there to really try to live out the mission of Mercy. And I've been there 8 years, and it's really initiatives like this that really get my attention. And so that initial meeting, Andre is correct. I really wanted to see this through. I believed with all my heart that Mercy was the right partner for them. It met everything we talk about inside the walls of the hospital. And so it was just a timing thing. And these kinds of initiatives, they cost money, they take time. I oversee Mercy Health Foundation. So it did allow me the opportunity to work within Mercy and really help Andre build the partnership partnership between Mercy. Our leaders believed in it because we like to look for trusted partners, because there's no way it's going to be successful for Mercy to put up a clinic in anywhere in the St. Louis area, especially North County, North City, our underserved areas, and be trusted. And so Andre comes, he knows the community, and I think that really won Mercy over as far as why this was the right thing for us to do. We personally, I believe, healthcare is something everybody should have access to. And so this initiative for us, and we have 20 members of community leaders that sit on our own board at Mercy Health Foundation, and unanimously over the last 60 days, they have approved to fund the clinic. So it's the complete build out, which is $140,000. And then we're also funding $80,000, which really funds ultrasound equipment, so we can have an emphasis on women's services there in addition to primary care. So there'll be 2 exam rooms. We'll be able to do blood work. There'll be a lab on site. And we really do realize a lot of the impact on why people can't get access to healthcare is transportation, like Andre said. So I think exactly where this is located, we want to have everything there so that people can get what they need done and stay close to home. And so we're all really excited. So glad to be a partner. I'm really looking forward to this opening, but our board, the entire Mercy team is all behind this.
Tanya, even when I just hear it now, it's just this is what God wanted for this community. And I just want to say thank you to you and thank you to Mercy. And I really do think this is the beginning of something huge. I really do. I really do. So when we start talking about this, though, I can't help, every time I'm with you, I can't help dreaming about what's coming. And I know you've thought this through. You admitted to us that you think like an engineer. So I know you're not just thinking about, gee, I wonder what's going to happen next week or next month. You really have planned this out for the long haul. Could you just break a couple of things down for us? What do you envision happening in the next, let's say, 12 months?
Yeah, so I do. I mean, you don't turn off that systematic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So in those 12 months, the clinic opening, Mercy, key partner, anchor partner, as when you're talking real estate, being in position, our church being in the hub, other organizations, including Catholic Charities, being there to help serve people. Also see groundbreaking for new affordable housing. We were able to secure from the city through help from our friends from Braceway Impact, building a relationship with the mayor, to our aldermen being able to buy an entire city block, 3700 Heber Street. And so we're aiming for next July doing a groundbreaking for the building of single affordable homes for sale, which you can go and check the statistic. And a home mortgage origination, not a refi, but an actual home loan in the Jeff Vanderlouville, Greaterville community has not happened in almost a decade. So that shows you the magnitude of what's coming in the next 12 months. We also are putting together a plan that's almost done, where we'll present to the city for what's called land development rights, so that not in addition to those 15 homes, we can build additional for sale market rate housing, commercial space for small business to come back. Because again, we believe there's ways to operate safely and develop economic ecosystem right in our neighborhood in the midst of the pandemic. We're thinking of the next 12 months as if masks don't go away, as if there is or isn't a vaccine. These are things that we believe God is calling us to. The other thing that we're doing is on if you had a chance tonight to see kind of our partnerships page, you'll see something that says Cornerstone Building Group, and you'll see something that says J31 Property Management. Those are 2 divisions within Tabernacle Community Development Corporation to further real estate initiatives that have already been set and in place with operating agreements that soon we will be staffing for. So next 12 months, we're not letting off the gas. We're on the gas full throttle.
Okay, so I mean, I wasn't planning on this, but like there was an article that I read, and I think it was in the Harvard Business Review, and I say that because it makes me sound smart, but I'm not. But the title of it was so convicting because the title was, "You can either lead through a crisis, or you can just manage your response to it." And what I see you doing time and time again is not merely reacting to things. You're leading through a crisis. You're leading into the future. So now let's put you on the spot. That was 12 months, 24 months out. What happens?
Yeah. So there are a few things that get me excited that really, 24 months out, 36 months out. One of those being, most of you probably have heard the term NGA that's coming in our backyard. It is exactly 1.6 miles from our front door. And one of the things we intend to do is be a broker and leverager of peace for our neighborhood, because what we don't want to see happen is that Grand or any other street become the next door Delmore divide. And so for those of you who may watch and go, well, what's that? Meaning where there's a true economic and social impact separation due to a street because of demographics on one side of the street versus the other. So part of our real estate plans and part of Cornerstone Building Group, what gets me excited about their division, is going across Grand to say, we're going to leverage what's happening at NGA and put things in place real estate wise that not only allow the residents to stay there that are there now, but to bring in more residents to be a multicultural group. We're also coming across the park. We have a beautiful park by us, Fairground Park, that has a lot of rich history that we'll leverage. And we actually, the end of next year, will begin rehabbing homes on that side of the park, as well as we're in conversations with this initiative called the Brick Line, where they are connecting the pathway from Forest Park to the Arch to our park. And so we're talking economically how that brick line gets developed so that it tells the history. So if you imagine, if you will, with me, being able to walk from the Arch to our neighborhood and along the way to hear the history of what happened in the neighborhood over the last 60, 70 years, telling that story. So that's part of that. The other part of that is expansion of healthcare services with Mercy. See, we left a little room in the hub so that we believe they're going to love us so much that we'll be back at the table talking. And so we'll be able to expand those services. Our tech center is open, training youth in 3 or 4 different programming languages. Our church, then, in the center of all of that, is continuing to serve people. And oh, by the way, in the next 24 months, our plan calls for 35 rehabbing of houses. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think one of the words I used up front was inspiring. So whenever I'm with you, I'm inspired. But I'll tell you the other thing I love about you is you see the whole picture. So you tell me what can happen, and I do. I just get so engaged with your dreams. But you also tell me the truth about the reality of the whole picture. Could I get you now to just tell us in these next few months, years, just give us some real specific hurdles? What are some things that you're seeing that, okay, we've got to get over this or this?
Yeah. Of course, you can't do what we do without challenges, right? And challenges are biblical. Oftentimes, the opportunity is wrapped up in an obstacle. That's biblical. And so one of those challenges is real-time gentrification for us. We recognize, due to the level of investment, not only by us, but by others who sometimes don't have the best interests of the current residents today, that there will be some
Could I
gentrification.
just stop you there? And will you explain that term for people who are saying, hey, I've heard it, but I don't, tell me what that
Yeah.
means, Pastor Andre. What would you say to them?
So in a nutshell, what it means is investment comes into an area that has been deprived of investment. And you take where we are, the North Corridor of the city of St. Louis, that has been neglected for the last 20 plus decades or more. And all of a sudden, when you have multi-million-dollar investments, it attracts not only additional investment, but it also pushes up taxes. It oftentimes brings in a community and a demographic that was not existing in the neighborhood. And so all of a sudden there's this tension because now someone whom I love who's been living there for 40 years can't afford their taxes. And if they can't pay their taxes, they lose their home. And then when they lose their home, someone else buys it that doesn't have the same neighborhood heritage or connection. Now, all of a sudden, what used to be a place that looked one way demographically looks completely different. And there's only traces of who used to be there.
And those people who used to be there are now displaced.
Absolutely. And oftentimes when they're displaced, no one is giving thought to where they go. You know, so I lose my home. I just have to figure it out. No one's coming along saying,
Right.
yeah, you lost your house, but we're going to help you get here.
Right.
So that's a real life challenge that we've got to deal with in the next 12, 24 months and beyond. The other challenge is collaboration. St. Louis is notorious for operating in silos. I believe it's the most crippling thing
I agree.
to us. And so we already experience it now where people see some of the work we do and they come along and try and sabotage it. One of the things that gives me hope, we've been working as a part of a team called North Star Community Partners, where it's 5 different organizations with like passion who are in the northern corridor of the city, who are looking to work together for the long term to say, how do we collectively together help our city as well as help our neighbors and other entities around us. But it's still, collaboration is an issue. And then the third thing, a very real live challenge for us is capital. Because to do what we're talking about takes capital. And all of it can't be fundraised. Some of it has to be bank investment. And I've shared this with you before. When we first started this work, banks would laugh at us. I mean, I'm grateful tonight, by the way. We've got some banks sponsoring tonight. So I love you. I want to make sure I say
That's
that.
right.
And I have to be honest and say, you know, it was like, yeah, come see us another time when this first began. So those are real live challenges. And I throw this one in a fourth. We have to work together with our police department to tackle the rise in all over violence. Because if you take, for instance, right now, year to date, we as an organization have been blessed to invest over $3 million in that area. However, it can be undone or certainly challenged if we don't deal with not just what we see happening in terms of violence, but the root causes of why the violence is happening. That's a real life challenge. And it's, again, goes back to us getting on the same page and not point fingers, not worry about who's affiliated with what political party, but how do we address this so that for the long-term health of St. Louis? Because here's the thing, so goes the Northern Corridor, so goes all of St. Louis. Because when you travel and I travel, for instance, when Ferguson happened, what would people say? They automatically thought you were from Ferguson. Mm-hmm. You may have never been in Ferguson in your life, but because that's what they heard, so goes one piece, so goes all of it.
Right.
And so those are real life challenges that we have to address.
But I would just say this, and then I've got one more question for you. You've already, in your answers, your previous answers, you've shown and told us that you really have a plan for this that is, it's not just winsome, it's powerful, it's effective, it's unique, because you are a broker of relationships, and I would say a broker of peace and a broker of creativity, and you don't want to just look at one part of an issue. Again, the engineer is coming into mind. You're looking at the whole system and saying, how do we bring solutions into this system? But what I love about that is this is not just theory. These are real stories, like Keyshawn.
Absolutely. Keyshawn's story warms my heart because, and I say this, and I tease him about this. He's now at Mizzou. I'm a fellow Mizzou alum. I thought he would go to engineering track. He switched to business. I told him I won't hold that against him. I'll forgive him this time. But in all sincerity, he is a young man whom had came with just challenges that he didn't ask for. And because of what we do, we got a chance to meet each other and we got a chance to work together. And now I get the privilege and others to see the benefits and see how a young man's future now is shaped totally different and has hope in his eyes. And it helps us remember that what we do is real and that it does work. So if you would peek in with us on this video, you get a teaser of it, but check out this conversation that myself and Keyshawn had a chance to dialogue. What was life like prior to connecting with us, our organization, Tabernacle Community Development Corporation?
Well, prior, we as a family as a whole, we were dealing with a lot of things. It was pretty hard. It kind of reached a point where it was, for me, I knew for a fact I had to start sacrificing some things for the greater good to make sure my siblings were going to be okay. Because at that point, I knew I only had a certain amount of time left. So, I stopped playing football, something I kind of enjoyed doing, really more so just because it kept me active and just to help, my mom when she needed, clothes to go to a job interview, gas money. When she finally did manage to get a car, making sure that, everybody stayed connected for the phones and just things like that, just making sure we had what we needed so that we continue building and going in the right direction so that when I was gone, they would be taken care of.
Did at any time you ever think like, okay, is this gonna last or is this gonna end? Are they serious as an organization? Is Pastor Andre serious, or after a few months or a little bit, are they gonna pull the rug from under us? Did any of that ever cross your mind?
Dealing with the things that I've dealt with in life, that was definitely a thought that I had continuously. It's one thing to, take people for their word. It's another to trust what they're saying. It showed me not to be as uptight or sorry, I'm kind of blanking. Just not to be as assumptive about the situation as we could possibly be. Just trying to, take it day by day, week by week, and just being able to, after the first month, after the second month, after we sat down and had a conversation about how she was struggling to work to pay a little, and now we were willing to work with her. That was eye-opening. It showed me we aren't here by ourselves.
That's all awesome, man. I'm to say I'm proud is an understatement. I'm grateful that you feel comfortable talking to me and knowing how trusting a male figure, giving background for you isn't the easiest thing. So thank you for that trust. I don't take that lightly. Once you try 30 seconds, if you would want to leave people with anything tonight, who are part of Evening of Hope viewing it, what would you want them to know, or what would you want to say?
As you know, I'm also an RA here. I started that actually during my freshman year so that I can, kind of extend the hope that I was given to me from you, to try and, help everybody see, that there is a way through even when it doesn't seem like it. I'm also a United Ambassador, which is, part of the recruitment team, the diversity recruitment team for the university, just to make sure like the underrepresented groups, trying to show them like, hey, you can come here, you can be successful, you can feel comfortable, you can build your own community. You don't have to sing or conform to the norms, as some people would say. You can come here and be, and that's just okay. That's exactly what we're looking for. I definitely feel like, as far as the tab goes in the St. Louis community, it shouldn't be overlooked. Really, if I want anybody else to know anything, it's just try and do what you can. And even if it's not a lot, just know that it is meaningful to someone somewhere. You may feel like you're not doing anything at all. For somebody else, it may feel like you just gave them the entire world.
Okay, so here we are now at the end of this. Let me just share something with you. In the middle part of the 20th century, scientists discovered that if you bombarded the nucleus of an atom, it would split, and then it would release an amount of energy, but then particles would fly out of that atom and hit other atoms and split them, and that would release more energy, and so on and so on and so on. And scientists began to call that a chain reaction. Okay, so the point of a chain reaction, and some of you have heard me talk about this because this matters to us, but the point of a chain reaction is that even a small particle, if it's strategically placed at the right place at the right time, it can release massive amounts of energy. So what am I saying? I'm saying that I believe that you've been brought to this place right now. You've joined us to consider whether you're at the right place, the right time, the right moment, to maybe do your part of the right thing. Now, we told you that tonight you'd be informed and maybe enlightened on some things, inspired. We've already admitted that we've been inspired. But then that we've now come to this part where we wanted to talk to you for just a minute about something. And Andre already mentioned this idea of capital is a serious part of the challenge that faces him and this corporation as they move forward into making a difference in the St. Louis area. So I don't think it would surprise you now that for just a minute that I would talk to you about the capital challenge. Well, here it is. Tonight we have a goal, and the goal is that we think that we could raise $150,000. Now, for some of you, that's going to sound like an awful lot. For maybe some of you, a few of you, you could cover that whole thing right now, tonight. But either way, here's what I would suggest. There are probably people who are tempted right now to believe what I would call a lie, and it goes something like this. It's too late. It's too ugly out there. The problem's too big. It's too overwhelming. And there's just too much to do. So where do you even start? You could believe that, or you could listen to someone like Andre and Keyshawn and understand that even each of us, if we just do our part and focus it strategically where we're supposed to focus it, we could release massive amounts of good in our community. See, I don't want you to underestimate your part in this, big or small, and each of us will have our own sacrifice, our own idea of how we could get involved. So it's not all going to look the same, but I don't want you to underestimate the power of your next step, your choice, your generosity, your involvement in this, because I happen to believe that something is happening that could echo into future generations. So what is it that we're talking about? When we say $150,000, for us, that's a big number for sure. But you need to know that there are people who have already invested in what is going on through TCDC and Pastor Andre, and we believe what is happening in North St. Louis is something that will continue. So it's not just Mercy. In fact, these are some other organizations and foundations that have said, we think they're a good investment. And if you pay close attention, you would see that the Crossing Church would be one of those. So some of you might be looking at this and saying, well, Do you guys have any skin in the game? And my answer to you is yes. We have been a part of Andre's ministry and what he's doing there for years, and it's been a privilege, and we're honored to be a part of it. And I would say for us, it was a serious investment, and will continue to be so. But we don't even look back on that, because I think that we're just getting started. And so now it's your turn. So when I say it's your turn, I'm asking you to consider what this 150,000 might actually get us towards. So let me just give you 2 or 3 thoughts here. The first is that this will provide housing for some who are in need of it, and these are people who have been impacted by the pandemic. And let us not forget how difficult that is, and how difficult it is in certain populations and in certain neighborhoods. So this specifically addresses that. It also provides scholarships for young people to go to both to college and to trade schools. And so you start to think of how this isn't just a bridge within the community, it's a bridge to the future, and we're opening doors for young people. And my prayer, my hope is that the next Arthur Ashe, the next Dick Gregory, the next, you just go down the line, those people are going to come from this community. And so let's do that. And then lastly, we get to complete the hub, and we get to lean into some of the operating expenses of this very significant endeavor that I think is going to change lives. So it really now will just come down to, will you consider being a part of this? In just a second, I'm going to stop talking and let you just kind of figure this out. You may need to talk to your spouse, to your family. You may need to talk to your accountant before you do something, however that works. But I want you to consider why this would be a good investment, to take just the next step, whatever that step is for you, to join us in this. You see, Andre and I talk about this all the time, but we're playing the long game here. And when I asked you about 24 months, I want to go further out than that. Because what I think about is like 5 years from now, and 10 years from now, and the 10 years after that. I want to be able to tell my grandkids, and if the Lord allows me, my great-grandkids, that I was there when something happened. And I didn't just stand back and say it was too ugly, and it was too big, and it was too much. But I was one of the people who said, wait, I want to be a part of this. You see, I think St. Louis can be the epicenter for something good. I think people could look back years from now and say, what happened there? And we get to say that we were on the ground floor of this. So I'm asking you to consider what it would be like for you to help us start a chain reaction of goodness, of healing, of reconciliation, of justice, of grace, and in the words of Keyshawn, hope. So, thanks for listening to that. I'm going to be quiet now and just give you just maybe a minute to think about this on your own.
Thank you, Pastor Greg, and thank you, everybody who has tuned in tonight. My heart is overflowing with joy because we get the privilege of doing this together. Now, I know for some of you, it may take a little bit more time to kind of figure out, how do I plug into this? What's that amount, or even going a step further than just an amount, how can I get directly involved? Those are all things I want you to ponder and consider. And I pray that you will support us financially. Well, before we go, I want to leave you with this. 6 years ago, when TCDC started, it was on paper, but it was still a dream. But what makes it reality is people. We're in the business of serving people. So I hope you heard tonight from me, from Keyshawn, from Tanya, from Pastor Greg, how much we are about people. And so I want you to know, when you support us, you're not supporting our personal platform. You're supporting and helping people who you may not get the privilege on this side of heaven to know, but will be eternally grateful for your generosity. So as we sign off, I will want to do this. I'm sorry, I'm a pastor, so it is what it is. I want to say take care, God bless, and I look forward to getting to meet and talk with many of you after tonight.